Welcome to the Strategic Management Accounting course, where we teach the value-adding steps and processes necessary to execute strategy. Whether you are just starting up or looking to grow your business, then this course is for you. With your host, Dr. Neil O'Connor.
Hi, welcome. This is Neil, and I want to take you through one of the important exercises for service department cost allocation. It is important, especially for large organizations, when we are trying to do those allocations for different purposes. Maybe it is to facilitate making better decisions in terms of which products we want to provide more support to, or which customers we want to spend more time looking after. Okay, or maybe the allocations are plainly for motivation purposes or responsibility accounting purposes. What do I mean by that? The very fact of allocating $1 or more to something communicates that you, if you're the recipient of that allocation, your department, all right, it communicates the fact that you are using the resources of some other department. And then hopefully that breeds some element of accountability, and in the long term it may help align the culture by, even if we don't use it for decision making in product costing or customer profitability analysis or other important economic decisions, at least it may help this purpose of allocating, at least it may help develop a culture whereby, okay, I'm the production department, I'm the most important here, but now you're receiving allocations from these service departments. It's communicating that even though you may feel you're important, you are using the resources of other departments. And by the fact that you are using resources of other departments, those other departments are also important because you cannot exist without them. And so this can help bring a stronger teamwork culture, a more aligned culture in the organization. And it's that fact that's very much passed over when we talk about service department cost allocation, okay, whether it's direct, step down, or reciprocal. So I'm going to take you through some of these methods. Direct and step down, most important, and we'll focus mostly on these. And so let's get into the good stuff, shall we? So we have the problem. Allocating costs when service departments provide services to each other. The solutions when we use a direct method or a step method or reciprocal method. Under the direct method, we are allocating support costs only to operating departments. There is no interaction between supporting departments prior to allocation. So the catering department, even though they are feeding other support departments, all of the costs of the catering department are being allocated to production or to other production departments or customer service departments. So here we have here, let's get our famous pointer. So under the direct method, we don't use any allocation between the support departments like accounting, information systems. We're allocating them directly to manufacturing or packaging. All right, so here's our direct method. Interactions between service departments are ignored. We are allocating directly to machining or assembly in this case. So let's have a look at a real example. Castle-Ford Engineering. Okay, let's be very clear here. They're actually making something. They are manufacturing something. So they have machining and they have assembly. Okay, so machining could be getting parts ready and then they're sent to assembly, and then assembly puts the parts together. It could be furniture, it could be a motor vehicle component, it could be electronic component, it could be many different products. But machining and assembly, they are the two operating departments, and they are the focus of the service department cost allocation in this exercise. All right, so who are the support departments? There is plant maintenance, so people go in at night time and maybe just check the machinery, maybe do the oiling of the machinery, maybe replace some parts. Or broader than that, maybe they spend time cleaning the factory floor every night. Okay, you need to have a slick factory floor in a very strict quality control manufacturing facility. What about information systems? How are they providing support? They're providing the computer system, they're providing the server, they're providing backup support in terms of the data, they're providing information for different people to make decisions. So information systems will go throughout the organization. They are providing support to the operating departments as well. Okay, so we know we've got these two support departments, and we know that they've incurred costs. How did they incur these costs? Maybe it's through labor. Maybe it's through the labor hours incurred by the people working in these support departments. What about the rental, the electricity, the floor space that they are using in the factory? These are all resources that are being consumed by the service departments. So this is where the 6.3 million, the 1.452 million come from. All right, so how are we going to allocate plant maintenance? Well, in the past, we've gone out on the factory floor and we've seen that the maintenance costs for these two different departments depends on how many hours are spent by our maintenance team. If they spend more hours in one department than another, we can reasonably assume that we could allocate more of those costs to one department than the other. So that is for plant maintenance. We are using the cause effect allocation basis is going to be labor hours. What about for information systems? Maybe labor hours is not the best way to allocate information systems costs. Maybe it is budgeted computer hours. And so we have budgeted computer hours for information systems, and then we can allocate who is using those computer hours across all of the departments. Before we go to the next step, let's just have a look at the use of the labor hours and the computer hours by the two operating departments. Machining used 6,000 budgeted labor hours. Assembly used 10,000. So assembly used more of the plant maintenance. What about in terms of information systems? Machining used 4,000 budgeted computer hours and assembly used 500. So basically machining used much more than assembly. Maybe it's because of the engineering designs, the drawing and the planning and the ordering that really focuses on how machining needs to rework or work the various components that need to be assembled. So that may be why they use more of the information systems. You can see that here. So now we have our use of the resources by machining and assembly of these support departments. We can go to the calculation now. So at the moment, we are allocating 6.3 million, part of it to machining, part of it to assembly. And we're allocating information systems 1.4 million, part of it to machining, part of it to assembly. We're not allocating these costs to other departments or other support departments. So we want to go back, let's go back one step to really understand how did we get 2362500 and how did we get 3937500? Well, we can do a calculation here. This percentage here is 37.5%, and this percentage here is 0.625%. All right, so how did we get that? Because if we go back here, we have 30% and we have 50%. How come we're now using 37 and 62.5? The reason is that information systems is using some of that plant maintenance allocation of 20%, but under the direct method we're only allocating to machining and assembly. So 100% of the costs need to be allocated to machining and assembly. And so if it's 30/50, then the total is 16,000 hours. 16,000 hours, not 20,000. So machining share is 6,000 divided by 16,000 hours, which is 37.5%. Assembly share is 10,000 divided by 16,000 hours, which is 0.625 or 62.5%. So that's how we got the allocation rate here. Okay, what about information systems? We have 1290800 allocated to machining department from information systems. So what percentage is that? 1290800 divided by 1452150. Oh, we've got 88%. So therefore, we take it off 1, and we've got 11% for 161350 allocated to assembly department. So how did we get that? Well, again, our total allocation base of computer hours is 4,500, not 5,000. Okay, it's only 4,500 because that is the total amount of resources that machining assembly used. Machining used 4,000 out of that 4,500, which is the 88.9%. Assembly used 500 out of the 4,500 hours. You see that? Which is only 11.1%. And so that's how we got the 11.1% here and the 88.89% here. 89. Okay, that's how we got that. All right, so under the Dept method, we are ignoring the percentage of plant maintenance used by information systems. Plant maintenance, we are ignoring the percentage of information systems used by the plant maintenance. You see that? All right, we're just focusing on the resources being consumed by machining and assembly. Now, when we go to the step method, which is the next method, we are going to take into account this extra 20% and this extra 10%. And so therefore our calculations are going to be much easier because the allocations add up to 100%, 20, 30, 50. Here it's 10, 80, 10 for 100%. So there you have it. When we have the Dept method, we are ignoring the resources consumed by each of the support departments of each other. And we are only looking at the resources consumed by the operating departments. Let's have a look at the next stage, shall we? There are 3 points to understand regarding the step-down method. Okay, so if a service department's cost is being allocated, we ignore that service department's use of resources. Then, once the cost has been allocated to that service department, you ignore that service department. All right, it's already been allocated, then we ignore it. So under the step-down method, we need to decide which service department goes first, and the basis for that decision is a service department that is actually providing a larger amount of resources. And so that's very important to keep that in mind, and that's a decision you have to make. Do we go with information systems department first, or do we go with plant maintenance? Let's have a look in a minute, shall we? Each service department assigns its own costs to the operating departments, plus the costs that have been allocated to it from other service departments, and that's the key thing. So we've just got one additional step in this analysis. So let's have a look at this step-down method. So here we're saying accounting is receiving services from information systems, but we are not allowing information systems to be allocated costs for any services provided by accounting. Okay, and that may be a decision that is just a decision that is made, and that is peculiar to a particular company, particular industry. So let's get back to Castlefield Engineering. We have plant maintenance of 6.3 million. We have information systems of 1.42 million 150. Notice that that's the 2 beginning service department costs here. We have decided that plant maintenance, being the larger service department provider, shall go first in the step-down method. And so therefore we are allocating that 6.3 million across 1, across 2, and across 3 other departments. Okay, and you know the calculations here, which is very easy. The 1260 divided by 63 million. All right, you got your 20% here, and also your 1890 divided by 63, we get 30%. So we have 20% allocated here, we have 30% allocated here, and so we have 50% allocated here, and they were the original allocations. We know that. All right, so this is similar to what we did in the direct method. This is similar, but the percentages are different. They now only add up to 80%. Why? Because 20% of the plant maintenance resources were consumed by the Information Systems Department. So now we allocate that 20%, that 1260 to Information Systems. We need to add that up to 1452,150. And so the total is 2.712 million that we now follow basically a direct method now, and that is we allocate according to machining and assembly in accordance with what percentage each of these departments used. I can do the calculations now. Again, those two allocations, 88.89, and here we've got 11.11%. All right, and so basically we're doing the same percentage allocation as we did under the direct method. So let's summarize here. In the step-down method, number 1A, we need to choose which of the service department goes first. Normally it's the service department that provides more resources rather than the department that provides less. B, we need to allocate first to the other service department and then combine the total costs allocated plus the resources used by that service department for a combined total. And then C, then we use the direct method to allocate that second service department to the remaining operating departments, which is the original percentage allocation that was done under the direct method. Here, 88.89% and 11.11%. So there you have it. There's the step-down method and the direct method explained, and you can apply that to many other examples in the textbook. So let's see what it looks like on an Excel sheet, shall we? All right, so we have our total plant maintenance of 6.3 million. We have our information systems of, now originally it was 1452,150 plus 1260 allocated from plant maintenance, and that's your 20%. You got 2712150, and then that is now allocated to machining and assembly. So A was determining which of these support departments go first. B was after you do the allocation to the second supporting department and you get a total. And then C, you allocate that final total of the second department to machining and assembly. Okay, the original allocation to machining and assembly is shared with the second service support department. So there you have step-down method A, B, and C. That's how it's done. Quite easily done. Go through this, understand that it's all about allocations. And number two, it's out sequencing. You need to work out the sequence. We don't have time to go through this reciprocal method. That is where we treat plant maintenance and information systems as equal sharing, and so therefore you need to reciprocally allocate these two amounts while at the same time you're allocating to machining and assembly. But we're not going to go through that. The step-down method is sufficient for, number one, the purpose of the decision that's being made, whether that be for cost allocation to products or cost allocation to different customers, customer profitability analysis, or is it just for motivational purposes, just making people more aware of the resources that are being consumed by the service departments, because the operating departments think that they are everything. If it wasn't for me, this factory wouldn't exist. No. you need to team up with the service departments. We need everyone, and so it helps create a more accountable culture in the organization, and that has economic purpose on its own too. So keep that in mind, those two big purposes of service department cost allocation, and I'll catch you in the lecture. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.